As we wait to hear from Secretary of State on Afghanistan, we've just received the 2-minute warning. Our next guest is calling on him to resign. Tennessee Republican Congressman Mark Green joins us now. He served in Afghanistan and Iraq as a U.S. Army flight surgeon, both a member of the House Armed Services and Foreign Affairs Committees. I'll get right to it because we might have to get to Blinken in just a moment, but your thoughts as we are about to hear from him for the first time publicly since the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban, sir.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Sandra. I know you got a quick window here. I will just tell you that Secretary Blinken and the State Department has been the major failure here. The Department of Defense was, cautioning against the withdrawal, but when they were told by the president withdraw, they executed. All throughout the process, they were telling State, catch up, get people moving, and they never did. The State Department really owns the vast majority of the blame here. And the way they've executed the actual processing of people, closing the embassy before they really had the major processing done, just terrible decision making at State Department. I think that's been the biggest failure of all.
But the president said the buck stops with him, right?
Oh, yeah. Ultimately, of course, he's made horrible decisions. In fact, disgraceful decisions. When the UK, our closest ally, a member of parliament on the floor of the House of Commons calls our president shameful and says they have to figure out how to become independent of the United States as an ally on the floor of the House of Commons. This is shameful. It's a disgrace. It's humiliating. And this is all Joe Biden.
I want to just tell you, because we haven't been able to turn the sound yet because it just happened, but President Biden walked away from a discussion on cybersecurity at the White House. He answered one question as he was walking out the door. A reporter asked him, what if there are still Americans left in Afghanistan after this deadline? Biden turned around, we are told, and we'll have the tape in a few moments. Biden turned around and said, you'll be the first I call, as he laughed and smiled and walked out of the room. We'll have that, as I said, but what would be your reaction to that?
It incenses me. It incenses me to no end. I lived by a code when I was in the military. I live by that code now. Leave no person behind. The fact that they are so flippant about leaving Americans. And not only just Americans, but our allies too. The G7 said, please don't leave. Remember, NATO came over there because we were bombed. But the thought of leaving an American, and Secretary Blinken said, we fully expect Americans to not make it all out. I can't believe this. There is no excuse for pulling out because the Taliban says we have to be gone by August the 31st. It incenses me.
Well, I'll play it now. I'll play it now. I've got it. This was President Biden just a few moments ago at the White House. Listen.
What would we do if Americans are still there after the deadline?
Okay, I think we're still having technical issues playing that out, but he responded, you couldn't hear it, laughed and smiled and told that reporter, you'll be the first I call if there are Americans left in Afghanistan after midnight August 31st.
His number one mission as the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, is to protect the people of America. He has failed. He needs to be removed from office.
What happens next here, Congressman? We're all watching this, praying as Americans, hoping for the absolute best of a horrific situation. What do you expect Secretary Blinken's going to come out and say right now?
I think what he's going to do is give us lots of great numbers about how many people have been flown out, and they're going to pat themselves on the back for doing that. But if the hard question gets asked, what do we do when there's still Americans after August the 31st, they're not going to have an answer. Yeah. They're not. Now, DOD has the assets. I've been told by, friends that I have in DOD. I spent 24 years in the Army, have a lot of connections, folks that are still in the military. They're telling me, we're prepared, we're ready. Just give us the order. But the order isn't coming because Joe Biden is incompetent.
Congressman, my colleague John Roberts is going to jump in now as we received the 2-minute warning about 4 minutes ago, and this is already delayed by a couple hours. So, John, we are still awaiting the Secretary of State.
Yeah, we've seen these extended 2-minute warnings over and over again, and I must add, not just in this administration, but successive administrations. But Congressman, I wanted to ask you about the potential political fallout here for President Biden. Critics can say, look, he needs to step down or he needs to be impeached. We all know that's not going to happen. But take a look at this finding from the USA Today Suffolk poll on his handling of Afghanistan. Only 26% of people approve, 62% disapprove, and his overall approval rating is really fading now. He's underwater, only 41% approve, 49% disapprove. Obviously, the focus right now should rightly be on getting people out of Afghanistan. But beyond that, what do you think the lingering political blowback on this is going to be, particularly if Americans are left in Afghanistan?
I think the Democrats are scared to death right now that this is going to have a massive impact on the midterms. I think we already are expecting to have we're going to take back the House, but this may be a true just landslide victory for us, because Americans, to get 62% of us to agree on something, that doesn't happen very often. Our elections are pretty close across. When you look at a national level election, to have 62%, and I saw a poll the other day that said 70+% disapproved or strongly disapproved. So I think this is going to really hurt the Democrats, which I'm fine with. I think it matters who governs, and we will do better. So I'm looking forward to that happening.
Congressman, it was almost hard to believe a statement that Nancy Pelosi put out at the top of the hour, talking about how great a day it was yesterday for her and her party and the Democratic caucus. On that massive spending bill, she took a victory lap. In it, she said, "Thanks to you, yesterday was an historic day for Congress. Because of the unity, strength, and spirit of the Democratic caucus, we've lifted up the Biden agenda and are delivering on our promises for the people." A similar victory lap that Joe Biden took yesterday, obviously with all this happening, it's almost hard to believe, Congressman.
It's shocking, actually, to think that the President of the United States was whipping Democrat votes yesterday, because honestly, up until late yesterday, they didn't, or until we voted, they didn't have the votes, right? We were supposed to vote on things Monday night. They didn't have them. So here's the President of the United States and Nancy Pelosi and the Democrat leadership whipping a tax increase on the American people while Americans are stranded in Afghanistan and the country disintegrates into chaos. If that doesn't tell you who the Democrat Party is, or at least their leadership, I don't want to malign the whole party, but whoever the people leading the Democrat Party right now, starting at the top with their president, that is incompetence. It is shameful. It is, representative of they're more concerned about their own power than they are about people. You look at the southern border and what's happening there. We have communicated to President Biden that fentanyl has increased 600%, meaning more addicted Americans, meaning more dead Americans. Do they care? No, they don't care.
Well, we do know, Congressman, that there are plenty of Democrats who are very upset by what they're seeing in Afghanistan. And they want the White House to address this and address it in a fashion that's not going to leave any Americans behind. There's another topic that we have been debating today and discussing today is this idea of people coming out of Afghanistan who may have ties to terror. Now, I've actually been communicating with a White House official over this in the last few minutes. They are absolutely adamant that there will be a thorough vetting process in place here to make sure that no one with ties to terror gets into the United States. But with people coming out of Afghanistan, some of whom don't have any documentation and whose backgrounds may be very difficult to trace, do you have faith, Congressman, that that system will prevent anyone who has ties to terror from coming into this country?
Well, I do know that they have robust systems, but I also know that those systems haven't worked in Afghanistan. So hopefully that means that incompetence isn't going to be transferred back at McCoy and Bliss and these other locations where the process will be completed. But there is always a chance. The thing for terrorists is they only have to get it right one time out of 100. We have to get it right 100 times out of 100.
Congressman, we really appreciate you joining us. We are still awaiting the Secretary of State live at the State Department there. It's been delayed quite a bit today and delayed further after receiving the 2-minute warning. Congressman, thank you.